I was going to say not your father's Republican Party, but in your case, it actually is your father's Republican Party. So the numbers are in, and they're really extraordinary. The New York Times pointing out that counties where Hispanics make up more than a quarter of the population collectively shifted 9.5 points to the right. The Atlantic has a piece today. I'll just read you a couple bullets. In 2020, Biden won New Jersey by 16 points. This time, Harris seems poised to win it by just 5. Rural Texas border towns where many Hispanic people live, as well as rural Kentucky, where very few Hispanic lives. She ran behind Joe Biden. Your dad limited the Democratic margins in all of these places. She ran behind Biden in high-income suburbs like Loudoun County, Virginia, and in counties with college towns all over the country, where Penn State is, University of Wisconsin, and others. Your dad improved his margins in some of America's largest metro areas. Here's the one you got to hear. Maybe you already have. In the New York City metro area, Manhattan shifted 9 points to the right, Don. Brooklyn shifted 12 points right. Queens shifted 21 points right. Bronx shifted 22 points to the right. And it wasn't just New York. Philadelphia shifted 5 points right. Detroit, 9 points right. Illinois, Cook County, Chicago, 11 points right. I mean, virtually the entire country. It didn't matter if it was black, if it was white, if it was urban, if it was rural. Everyone moved to the right. So what is that about?
Listen, I think people have seen with their own eyes, right? A lot of failed Democrat policies. The reality is, when I always tell the story on the campaign trail, sort of, I took my kids last summer, 2 of my boys, we went on a father-son fishing trip. We came back. They were hungry. We went to McDonald's. It was a 10-year-old, a 14-year-old, and me, and it was $48. And Megyn, I can tell you that if Donald Trump Jr. has sticker shock at McDonald's, it's a serious problem. You have that. You see all the wars breaking out all over the world. You see they can magically find umpteen billion on 2 seconds notice for Ukraine or for the Middle East, Lebanon, for example. But, when a hurricane hits North Carolina, you get a $750 loan and FEMA's nowhere in sight. People got sick of the priorities where they were put last. I mean, Americans were candidly second-class citizens in their own country. If you came across the border, you get $10,000, you get a phone. They put you up in a luxury hotel with a court date sometime, in the next century. And Americans were struggling, and they're watching that money. They see it as clear as day. They see the crime. They feel it. They see the fentanyl. No one's even talking about that. 100,000 deaths a year. I mean, that's 2 Vietnams a year. Due to the porous open border. Kamala Harris owns that. She was the border czar. And, you cited the Atlantic earlier, but, there was a guy that tried fact-checking me in the Atlantic when I started saying she's the border czar. No, she's not. That same writer in the Atlantic, like 18 months ago, wrote an article about her being the border czar. No one's falling for it anymore. The sort of mainstream media has lost all their credibility. So many people are tuning into, whether it's you, whether it's, perhaps me, although mine's probably a little bit more of a bubble on the right, but, the Joe Rogans of the world, all of these people, independent media, and independent journalists. And, they're seeing a totally different picture that's totally discredited the mainstream media. And so as people have more access to that information, it was a big deal. And then you also had Kamala Harris, where everything was so scripted. The policy shifted depending on who she was talking to. Well, guys like you and Joe were, you're able to point that out. When you're running a pro-Hamas ad in Michigan while running a pro-Israel ad in Pennsylvania, like, it doesn't take a genius to sort of blend those two ads together. You present them to the people and you lose everyone. She was a terrible candidate. She couldn't relate. There's a reason she didn't go on those podcasts, is because if anything lasted longer than 5 minutes on a teleprompter, the real Kamala Harris came out, and let's just say it wasn't all that impressive.
Can you speak to, like, the Politico article today that's trying, it's clearly, I think, Harris sympathizers trying to blame it all on Biden. And obviously there's plenty of blame for him, but the headline is Dems rage against Biden's arrogance after Harris loss. They're directing their rage at Joe Biden for not dropping out sooner. They're livid that he left them at a sharp disadvantage. He shouldn't have run. He's done an enormous amount of damage to the country, put a lasting dent in his legacy. And the second part of that narrative by people like Scarborough is Kamala Harris, on the other hand, she hit all her marks. I mean, she did all that she could possibly have done.
I mean, it's so laughable. I mean, those are the same people writing those articles. I guarantee if you go back 6 months and for the prior 3 years to that, those are the same people telling us that Joe Biden is the best Joe Biden he's ever been. I mean, Joe Scarborough actually literally said that. Like, this is actually a better Joe Biden with all of this experience. I'm like, I don't know, man. I saw the guy get lost on a stage yesterday. It's like, you can't sell that with a straight face. It wasn't like a gaffe. It was daily. It was a disaster. But then Kamala Harris is out there saying, she was the last person in the room. She was the person that then went to meet with Russia and Ukraine. I guess she only met with Ukraine because she wasn't able to meet with Russia or didn't want to, or, 3 days later they invade. I mean, you can't take credit for all of the administration's decisions and then run from them. So while I do agree Joe Biden was a disaster, I believe Joe Biden would have actually performed better than Kamala Harris, not because he's necessarily competent, but because people didn't have a visceral dislike of him. He's sort of like, you don't kick an old dog, right? It's just a little bit different. So I think this is all on her. I think she owns it. I don't think he did her any favors, but like candidly, I think what they did to him probably behind the scenes wasn't exactly great. This was a guy that was, whether we like him or not, he was a leader of the Democrat Party. He was, a 50-year senator. He was there forever. And, the second it wasn't useful or they saw another path or the path that they thought was better, they kicked him out like a dog. So I don't know that he was all that helpful to him, but I would have liked Kamala Harris to be on the campaign trail for like an entire year longer. I think we'd probably win every state. That's what some people, her defenders are saying. She didn't have enough time, and she did not improve upon acquaintance. That's the reality of it. Let me ask you about some of the reaction now. Biden's issued a statement just now. Kamala Harris conceded finally yesterday at 4. And then Obama puts out the following statement, former President Obama, that reads in part as follows. In a country as big and diverse as ours, we won't always see eye to eye on everything, but progress requires us to extend good faith and grace, even to people with whom we deeply disagree. That's how we've come this far, and it's how we'll keep building a country that is more fair and more just, more equal and more free. I mean, he sounds really sweet and like he's really rooting for your dad and for the country come together. He's not.
The nonsense, Don, of all three of these people who either tried to put your father in prison or were in support of it, to now be like, I'm the elder statesman and I will help us unite. What do you make of it?
Listen, I think it's a huge lie. I think Obama's always been an incredibly divisive character. I think he is the architect of a lot of the lawfare that we've had to deal with, the weaponization of government against its people and certainly against their political rivals. I think he was incredibly helpful to us with African-American men when he was basically browbeating them and, talking to them like they must do this. And if you're not this, you're not a man. I don't know that Obama has the qualifications to really try to browbeat men on masculinity. But then you saw, even the other day, just less than a week ago, he's out there repeating the Charlottesville hoax as though it's real. Like, that was the true Obama. He's a divisive figure.
Days ago.
He will lie to your face, and then he'll play the innocent card. If Obama was a Republican, the media would destroy him for those kind of lies. But because he's a Democrat, they have to, get into full propaganda mode. And look at how nice he is. He's not. He's always been that character. He's always been a vindictive guy. I'm just glad that the American public finally saw that, because I think they realize it. And, I know he was trying to probably help Kamala Harris, but I think he probably did as much, if not more damage to her campaign than Joe Biden, because the rest of America got it. When there's liberal journalists, in the last 6-7 months, literally coming out, be like, you know what? Charlottesville was nonsense. That was a hoax. We're finally playing the whole clip. I don't believe that they were innocent actors in this and they just didn't listen to the rest of the sentence. I don't believe that for 1 second. But when some of the most radical leftist writers in the country are like, okay, maybe we should drop this one because no one's buying it anymore, and he's literally selling it to stadiums of people or, as much of a crowd as Kamala Harris could get, that's just disgusting. It was disgusting. And I think the rest of the country, whether you agree with our policies or not, they saw that, they realized it, they recognize him for who he actually is now, and they weren't buying it anymore.
Kamala Harris got out there yesterday, and as I pointed out, she did concede. She had a lot of her same word salad phrases that we've heard for all of her campaign now. Here's just a sampling. We'll listen to SOT 3.
While I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign. The fight for freedom. I will never give up the fight for a future where Americans can pursue their dreams, ambitions, and aspirations. The fight for our freedom will take hard work. But like I always say, we like hard work.
Oh, no. Hard work is good work.
Hard work is good work. Hard work can be joyful work. On the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win.
Do you think Kamala Harris goes on to be any sort of a leader in the oppositional force to your dad's agenda?
I hope so, because I think it only helps us. You know, that speech, you know, I get it. They're checking the boxes. It sort of read to me like a Dr. Seuss book. But I think that's the point. You know, it usually does with her. And again, the American people are onto it. They get it. They're no longer just ignoring what they see each and every day in their pocketbook across the world. I mean, I think the greatest headline I saw, I guess yesterday morning, or maybe it was lunchtime. I woke up after pulling 2 all-nighters, and I'm reading Hamas has now come out and said they'd love to get to peace. I'm like, it took Trump 12 hours. He's not even in office yet, and Hamas wants to have peace in Israel all of a sudden.
And
it's
the
like,
Houthis.
hey guys, daddy's home. And like we can't get away with the nonsense anymore. It's so incredible because when I think of the last 4 years, I think whether it's there, whether it's the Ukraine, the life that was lost simply because America had no leadership. They had no standing in the world. And, that's the nature of predation, Megyn. When a predator sees something that's weak, they go after it. When America is weak, the rest of the world turns into chaos. And so it's so incredible. Now, of course, the liberal media is going to say, look at this, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris created peace in the Middle East. Coincidentally, 12 hours after they realized the jig is up and they have to get this thing going. But it's just so incredible to see. But it's also so disheartening to realize what was lost over the last 4 years, whether it's the jobs, whether it's our manufacturing, whether it's the life that we've seen, probably close to 1 million people over in the Ukraine and, tens of thousands in the Middle East. It's just so unnecessary. So I'm really looking forward to my father getting in there, fixing all of this nonsense. It's a shame it had to take this long. But I hope the rest of the world sees that, and I hope it really changes the way we approach things in the future, and especially after a Trump administration.
If you are tired of the same old coffee from the big mega corporations pushing their woke agendas, listen up. It's time to take a stand and support a brand that truly embodies American values, Blackout Coffee. They stand with hardworking Americans who believe in family, faith, and freedom. They roast some of the most incredible coffee you will ever taste using only premium grade beans, roasted and shipped to you within 48 hours. And for the cold brew fans, Blackout Coffee is excited to announce the launch of their 2 new ready-to-drink cold brew coffee latte options. Don't settle for less. Make the switch to Blackout Coffee. Head on over to blackoutcoffee.com/MK or just use the code MK for 20% off your first order. blackoutcoffee.com/MK. The code is MK. Join the movement. Taste the difference. Remember, with every sip, you are supporting a brand that stands for America. Be awake, not woke. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.